You're watching TelecomTV from the MEF16 event in Baltimore, and it's time now for our panel discussion on the LSO Hackathon. I'm joined by three panelists, all of whom are involved in the hackathon. Perhaps if I could start, Donald, at the end, and we'll have you introduce yourselves,
Sure.
starting with yourself.
Hi, I'm Donald Hunter. I work for Cisco. I'm in the Chief Technology Office at Cisco, and we've been involved in the hackathon since the first one in November last year, and we're really helping bootstrap the hackathon events at MEF so that we can start to accelerate development of MEF standards and see them delivered in open source projects.
Thanks, Donald. And next to Donald is Dawn.
Hi, I'm Dawn Kaplan. I'm with Ericsson. I'm a solution architect within Ericsson in the OSS BSS space. Within MEF, I'm an area director for the operations area in the specification side.
Thank you, Dawn. And next to Dawn is Andy.
I'm Andy Mayer with AT&T. I'm a principal MTS there. In the Domain 2.0 integration group, so we're looking at all the issues related to integrating eComp, which is an orchestration functionality, as well as the network cloud underneath. My role in MEF is I was editor of MEF55, which is the LSO Reference Architecture. My interest in the hackathon is both from a reference architecture perspective. As we build the things that were defined in the reference architecture inside this hackathon, we can learn things from it and bring them back into the reference architecture.
Great, well, good to have all three of you joining us on TelecomTV. This is, I believe, the third hackathon that the MEF Forum has undertaken. What do you say is the overall objective? What's the whole point of the hackathon? Now, Donald, you've been to all three of them now.
Yeah, so I guess MEF traditionally has just been developing specifications of standards of how Ethernet should work across companies. And there's always the difficulty that if you build a specification without implementations, that you won't necessarily have easily usable specifications when they're ratified. So the goal, I guess, of developing implementations in the hackathons is to actually get early implementations of developing standards so that you can feed back into the standardization process about what does and doesn't work before you've finalized the standard. Prior to this, you would have had to issue point releases of standards to revise things that were turned out to not be quite right after the standard's already been ratified. So this is all about accelerating the process and improving the quality of the standards.
I was going to say, and we're doing it in an agile way, so that we get a specification far along, to a point, we throw it over the wall, if you will, get the developers to try a proof of concept, to develop the API, and then give us back feedback. So it helps the specification go quicker, and it makes it more real life. We're not just putting out, like Donald's saying, a paper spec that you haven't tried in a business arrangement. So this is a way to validate the work in a very iterative process.
And being a person that writes the paper specs, I'm thrilled to be in the hackathon because I can not only provide guidance to the people actually writing the code up so they better understand what we meant when we wrote these certain requirements, but also get feedback from them to see what can we do better in the requirements as well.
Are you sometimes surprised by, you're thinking you're going down the right path, you think this is 100% the way to go, and at the hackathon something crops up?
Well, it's not a surprise, and we actually expect that because, as Dawn said, it's really this agile process. So we come up with our best guess. We look at how things might work, but in theory, right? But theory and practice aren't necessarily always the same. So we get to see the really practical aspects of how we might actually make the specs much better through this practical implementation.
And Donald, the hackathon's happening just along the corridor from us at the event. Who's participating? Are they all MEF members? Or?
No, the hackathon is open to people that are not MEF members. Obviously there are MEF members involved, and that's the majority of the people taking part, but we want the hackathon to be accessible to hackers from any company, and so we don't require them to be MEF members to take part, which is great. And we've had involvement from a few companies who they don't really have an interest in being MEF members, but they certainly have an interest in working on interesting open source projects to which MEF are contributing.
So are we seeing some interesting projects already underway here?
Yeah, we've been trying between AT&T is remote. Mainly their folks are remote, so we've been having some people here who are in the room. We're getting on conference calls, trying to brainstorm out scenarios. We divided up the development team. Some people in Plano and New Jersey are working on it. People here are working on it, and we're scheduling conference calls to collaborate. So we tried it in Rome when we did the Euro 16 hackathon with some remote, some on site. It worked. So we're doing even a little bit bigger proof of concept this time around, that way to do it both virtual and on site.
So it's not just the room here, this is going global.
We have people in Middletown, we have people in Texas from AT&T all working on this. And so it actually is pretty cool. And actually what we're doing with AT&T, we have this marketplace concept, which is actually an extension of something we really didn't define inside LSO, but it's taking LSO interfaces and seeing how can we look at them in a slightly different way. A marketplace, if you want to think about it, is almost a matchmaker. It allows access providers, for example, to kind of register their service into this marketplace, and then allows other service providers to come in and say, here's what I need in these geographic regions, and it's kind of a matchmaker between who's providing different types of services and who needs the services. So it's kind of a neat concept that we're trying out here in the hackathon.
Now, over the year since we gathered for Gen 15 in Dallas, we hear a lot about open networking. We've just had a panel here about open networking. Is that feeding, or those philosophies and strategies feeding into the hackathon and the work that's going on in the hackathon?
Yes, absolutely. So within MEF, I'm lead on one of the OpenCS projects, the OpenCS Packet WAN project. And really one of the main goals of that is to show open interoperability between different vendors in the Packet WAN space. And during the hackathon, we are working on the Open Daylight Unimanager project, which is basically an implementation of the OpenCS Packet WAN space. So one of the goals of that is to encourage vendors to implement device drivers so that we can actually demonstrate provisioning interoperability in a heterogeneous network. And that's fantastic because we're able to showcase that at the end of the hackathon.
And the hackathon is a finite length of time? Is it 1 day to 2 days here?
About 2.5 days. Yesterday was just presentations where each project made a pitch, if you will, on what their project was about and try to get participants. Today is really rolling up your sleeves, trying to define the business scenario you're going to implement and doing the coding. Tomorrow afternoon we'll have a showcase where everybody gets up and demos what they did or didn't accomplish. I mean, sometimes, I remember in one hackathon, they were coding till the very end, and there was people on the side still coding while they were demoing, trying to get it all pulled off.
It's a little bit different from a lot of other hackathons where there's prize money and people are competing to win. This is a much more interactive, sharing type hackathon. There's no prize money. We just want to all work towards making the MEF specs better and demonstrate working implementations. So we collaborate more. There's not a competitive spirit as such, but we want to succeed.
If I could build on this too, it's not just this one event. We had all these other hackathons going on where we were able to just build this collateral. So initially we were looking at things like Presto, which is the interface from the orchestrator down to the network. And then that got built. Then during the other hackathons, other interfaces got built. This one we're looking at cross-domain service provider to access provider type interactions. So we're seeing not just the stuff that was done in the first hackathon being thrown away, it actually continues its life in these current hackathons as well.
Trying to evolve the use cases and make them more complex, so by the end of the day we can get the entire, from an pre-qualification request through an order, through a activation down into the network and back up, that whole thing. It's going to take a few hackathons to get all of the interfaces to connect, but we're working on them in piece parts right now.
So the discussion we're having here at the event about interoperability across domains and this east-west linkage,
exactly.
This is all
it's very
in action here.
And it's happening in the hackathon.
So at the first hackathon, I guess we didn't really have a good idea what to expect. So there was actually much more, we bootstrapped the hackathon with a few ideas and focused primarily, as Andy said, on the Presto interface. Now we're at the stage where telcos are actually telling us, well, interoperability is key to us. So the east-west interfaces, because they've never been standardized before, that's the key pain point. And there's consolidation happening in the marketplace, so even within a single provider, they need that east-west integration between existing deployed environments. So it's the crucial area we're all working on right now.
So we have 2 projects going in there right now. One's on serviceability and one's on ordering, because those are both, from an intercarrier perspective, those are the 2 highest priority from all the different research, surveys that have been done, just what you hear in the meeting rooms of what their pain points are. That's what we're trying to work on as our priority.
Yeah.
So I guess even some of these hacks don't quite work as imagined, that's still valuable feedback that will then go into the whole process.
Absolutely. A good example of that is at the last hackathon, we worked right up to the 11th hour and we couldn't get a functioning implementation. But it highlighted a few of the problems in the open source projects we were trying to rely on. That feeds back into the projects, and after the hackathon we work on resolving those issues. So everybody is better off the next time around.
So we've got the linkage with the ongoing standardization work, specification writing work. What about across the hallway here? We've got the networking hall, and in the center of the networking hall, we have the proof of concepts. I think there's 14 proof of concepts this year. Does any of the hackathon work kind of then build into proofs of concept?
Yes, absolutely. So we're co-funding a proof of concept with Amartis, and so they're running one of the proof of concepts, which is it's based on the Open Daylight Uni Manager, and they're using code that we hacked on at the Euro 16 Hackathon. So they've got a showcase. It's the first showcase of that in production, which is fantastic.
It's terrific. It's all joined up.
Yeah, absolutely. So as things get developed in the hackathon, you'll see them actually being leveraged, hopefully for the proof of concept demos, and it can accelerate those.
I was going to say, and vice versa, because
the other way around.
ECI has a microservices platform they've been building on top of, so they brought their microservices platform into the hackathon, so we can add some of the specifications work into their architecture to see how to extend what they have in the POC and across the networking hall into the hackathon. So there's really back and forth going on both ways.
Yeah, it is really iterative. Yeah.
Well, we look forward to tomorrow and seeing what's been accomplished. But for now, the three of you, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Guy.
Thank you.